Let's not beat around the bush. A lot of terrible and dramatic things happened in 2020. Although on a brighter note, we had a lot of incredible films to keep us happy and busy in these difficult times. A lot of films came out from all sorts of different countries, which was like the modern version of going on holiday, but without as big of a danger of catching or spreading a deadly virus. I'm a UK resident who loves J culture, so today let's take a look at the Japanese films that were released in the UK in 2020.
3人はかけがえのない親友だった。しかし
The first Japanese film I watched in 2020 was the anime sequel to the No Kuni video game series. The film sees its two protagonists travel between different but linked worlds. I'm not a fan of the Ni no Kuni games or the isekai and fantasy genres, so this film unfortunately did nothing for me. The plot felt incredibly familiar, and most people will likely have seen many films with similar or even identical storylines. The film didn't do anything special, and if it wasn't for its connection to the semi-famous video games, it would likely fall into obscurity.
あの夏の日、あの空の上で私たちは世界の形を決定的に変えてしまったんだ。
An anime film that definitely didn't disappoint was Weathering with You, the latest project by Your Name director Makoto Shinkai. The film returns to the romantic drama fantasy genre seen in Your Name, and even features a few noticeable but natural references to it. Our protagonist is a male high school student who runs away from home, eventually crossing paths with a girl who claims to be able to control the weather. The film handles this eloquently, with a gripping and emotional story matched with beautiful animation and a great new song by Radwimps that elevates the already incredible moving scene it appears in. It also released at the perfect time, managing to screen before lockdown and alongside a season of rain in London, which when paired with the powerful rainy imagery throughout the film, helped the film feel alive even after you'd seen it. Weathering with You was my second favourite film of the year, and I would consider it a must-watch. At the end of January, Netflix quietly released a film titled 37 Seconds. It's a shame that Netflix didn't push the film more, as I thought it was very well done. The film follows a girl with cerebral palsy as she sets out on a path of self-discovery and attempts to break free from her overbearing and controlling mother. I'm not sure how to pronounce the lead actress' name, but I believe it's Mei Kamaya, and it's her stunning first role. I'm very glad that the film cast someone who genuinely has the condition, as it makes her performance feel incredibly genuine. She's also very brave. This natural performance helps the already interesting story become more engaging as you completely believe the character's struggles and want to see her succeed. This coming-of-age story is honest and engaging, but also occasionally heartwarming. I would recommend giving 37 Seconds a watch. Based on the One Piece series, One Piece Stampede saw a very brief cinema release before heading to Blu-ray thanks to Manga Entertainment. One Piece is a highly successful manga and anime series about pirates with special powers that just released its 1000th chapter and is steadily approaching 1,000 anime episodes. Stampede is a non-canon celebration of the franchise. The film follows protagonist Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates at the Pirate Festival, the main attraction which is a no-holds-barred treasure hunt to find an eternal pose that will guide the way to Goldie Roger's One Piece. This was an excellent way to celebrate the series' 20th anniversary, with stakes so high and the inclusion of many iconic characters. The animation is serviceable and the soundtrack is fun, especially in one moment that will bring chills to any One Piece fan. Fans of One Piece will have a blast watching this crazy love letter to the series, though those that aren't up to date might have a little trouble recognising every character, as so many are featured throughout. Another franchise anime film released soon after, that film being the CG animated Dragon Quest Your Story, which is based on Dragon Quest V. I don't have a connection to the Dragon Quest series and haven't played the specific game that this film was based on, so the film didn't do much for me as it specifically targeted long-time players nostalgic for the franchise, especially the fifth game, which didn't even release outside of Japan for 16 years. I found the twist in the third act somewhat irritating, though I can imagine some people appreciating it. I didn't really enjoy Dragon Quest Your Story, but I have a feeling that some people will.
そうだよこれ有名な話だよスターダストブラザーズ知らないのみんな覚えてるかな一人やりも知らないのだったらこの話さ聞かせてあげるよ
Third Window Films delivered yet again with their dual format release of The Legend of the Stardust Brothers, which I saw at Fright Fest. I'll give a brief summary of the film as to not repeat any of the points I made last year. The Legend of the Stardust Brothers charts the rise and fall of fictional pop duo, the Stardust Brothers. The film is a blast with a cracking soundtrack bound to get stuck in your head. It's the perfect cult movie with charmingly goofy characters a la Bill and Ted, and a crazy cult plot and soundtrack reminiscent of, but far superior to, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. A range of special effects are used in a similar way to Nobuhiko Obayashi's house. All these comparisons and more are being thrown at Stardust Brothers in hopes of attracting an audience, but the film itself has its own unique identity and completely owns it. It's an absolute joy and I wish more people would watch it. Included in the special features is a 45-minute TV report documenting the production of the film. Being made for TV, it's not overly complex, but shows some behind-the-scenes footage that will be interesting to those that enjoyed the movie. I was surprised to hear that at the time, storyboarding wasn't commonplace in Japan, and that Stardust Brothers was unique for doing so. It's not a must-see, but there are interesting little tidbits like that throughout, which mean if you believe it'll be worth watching for you, it probably will be. I would very much recommend getting this great release of this incredible film. It even comes with a CD of the soundtrack, but if vinyl's more your speed, Third Window released one of those to purchase separately as well. For more of a traditional cult J-horror fix, then look no further than One Missed Call, recently re-released by Arrow Video. On this release, there are the 3 original Japanese films, the third making its first ever UK debut. It only collects the original trilogy, leaving out the TV series and the dire American remake. The One Missed Call franchise focuses on cursed phone calls. Your phone rings with a specific ringtone, leaving you a message foreshadowing your death. The first film, directed by Takashi Miike, is fairly standard post-Ring J-horror fare. It hits a few familiar beats, but delivers a fairly entertaining and spooky package. It's slightly derivative, but it does its job. Unfortunately, the 2 sequels disappoint. Both follow-ups overcomplicate things, introducing elements that contradict not only the original films, but even contradict the films that they're set up in. Both sequels are very cheesy, and at times the third installment even feels like a Final Destination movie. As usual, Arrow Video went above and beyond with their countless special features, including behind-the-scenes documentaries on each film, the first and third of which are even feature-length. Arrow did an excellent job releasing the definitive edition of the trilogy, but unfortunately when it comes to the films themselves, only the original is good, which you've been able to get separately in the UK for years. Despite the wince that the title induces when someone hears its name for the first time, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas is an emotional romantic drama anime released by Manga Entertainment. The film tells the story of a boy and girl from the moment their lives cross to the moment one dies at an unfortunately young age from a pancreatic illness. At times the story can feel a bit familiar and it hits all the obvious story beats at the exact moment you expect them to, but it still somehow ends up being somewhat moving. It doesn't break any new ground, but it passes the time and does exactly what it says on the tin.
You fit the role perfectly. I believe life shows us that being alive means reaching out to the hearts of all the people who affect ours.
A lot of you might have already gathered this from today's set, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. I'm a big fan of My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia is one of the biggest names in anime at the moment, especially in the Western market when compared to other series' popularity over here. If you're into nerd culture, you've likely seen cosplay at conventions, merchandise in stores, and fan art and videos online. Due to this immense fandom surrounding the franchise, it was entirely possible that the series' second feature film could have disappointed. But it didn't. The film completely blew me away, to the point where nearly a year later, thinking about it still gives me chills. The series follows Izuku Midoriya, aka Deku, coming to terms with a new superpower, referred to in this universe as a quirk, after dreaming of becoming a hero his entire life. My Hero Academia Heroes Rising follows Deku's class on an island training to be heroes. At the same time, a new villain who steals people's powers comes to take the quirk of a young boy on that very same island. The film is set after what I nickname the My Villain Academia arc, well over 200 chapters into the series, and does contain some spoilers, so it's best watch after watching or reading that arc. Also, with a series that long, the audience has spent a lot of time with the main characters and formed attachments to them. Something big happens in the film that will strongly pull on the heartstrings of any fan of the series, though it probably won't be quite as impactful to those who don't care about the series that much. I thought the film did a good job of briefly reintroducing the characters and their traits in a way that would allow parents or anyone else unfamiliar with the series to understand everything and everyone that was going on in a fun and interesting way that felt natural and didn't bore long-time fans who don't need any kind of reminder. The film does what it needs to keep everyone up to speed. The humour matches what's seen in the main series, which is bound to satisfy fans. The animation is consistently clean too. One criticism is that the villain could have been improved. He's very similar to All For One, another villain who also steals quirk. Series creator Horikoshi has stated that the plot of Heroes Rising was actually his original idea of how to end My Hero Academia until the series ended up becoming so popular. Personally, I loved this story and think what happens in the climax would have been a perfect way to end the franchise, especially when the current arc is starting to feel a little cheesy to me. I loved My Hero Academia Heroes Rising and would thoroughly recommend it, but it's definitely worth catching up with the manga or anime until the moment it takes place to feel the full impact and weight of that chilling moment. Another animated franchise piece released on Netflix the following day, that beloved franchise being the timeless Pokémon. The latest installment is Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution, a CG remake of the first Pokémon film. It seems to be becoming commonplace to retell classic anime storylines in the form of CG films, with Doraemon, Lupin the Third, and now this. The animation was palatable, and there is a decent joke referencing an infamous line of dialogue from the English dub of Pokémon. With the series having run for so long, especially with the large number of recent projects nostalgia-basing a return to the simpler times, and this specific film literally being a remake, I'm starting to feel franchise fatigue with Pokémon. It's okay, though not really anything memorable. Released on home media by All Anime, Penguin Highway is Studio Colorido's first feature film. The film follows a young boy as he starts noticing penguins appear in his city, seemingly out of nowhere, with no water sources in sight. The film is very cute, both in the adorable penguins it portrays and the humour displayed through the young protagonist. The animation is vibrant and colourful, especially considering it's the studio's first feature. Penguin Highway is a lot of fun, and if it sounds like it's your kind of film, I'd suggest giving it a go. Based on the American live-action sci-fi series, Altered Carbon Resleeved transforms the universe into a Japanese CG animation. I'm not normally a fan of CG anime, but considering, the animation looked decent enough. The story was not particularly engaging or memorable, but it was interesting to see the franchise through a different lens. I wouldn't recommend seeing the film, but it could have been worse. In April, Third Winner Films released Tsukamoto, a triple pack of films by Tetsuo director Shinya Tsukamoto. I'll review all three based on their original release dates. The Adventure of Denchu-Kozo, also known as Adventures of Electric Rod Boy, is one of his early works. In this film, a boy with an electricity pole growing out of his back uses a time machine to send himself into the future. 25 years later, Earth is now a dark, dystopian world ruled by vampires, and it's up to him and the future version of his female friend to save the day. It shares a lot of similarities with Tetsuo, the director's more well-known follow-up film, with its perverse body horror fusion of metal and flesh. Stop-motion animation of human actors to create the illusion of gliding can also be seen in both films. This film was included in the DVD release of Tetsuo, though it's still good to see it on Blu-ray in the Tsukamoto 3-pack. The Adventures of Denchu-Kozo is creative fun and worth checking out. Also included is Tsukamoto's 2005 film, Haze. Haze opens with a man trapped in a confined concrete maze, presumably underground. Neither he nor the viewer have any knowledge of why he's there. We follow this man on his horrific journey to escape and uncover who or what put him down there. The film is incredibly effective. The cramped sets and many close-up shots really impact the viewer, making you feel like you're down there too. The protagonist also suffers a lot of injuries and hardships throughout the runtime. Anyone who has seen the film will likely remember the scene with the pipe. Paired with the immersive mise-en-scène, you as the viewer feel his pain. It does what made the Saw films appeal to so many people, but without that franchise's flaws. With only a 48-minute runtime, the film never outstays its welcome and ends with an appropriate metaphor. For those who can handle painful cinema, Haze is well worth checking out. Killing is probably the main attraction of this set for most people, and rightfully so. The film is a samurai period piece playing out on a small scale. The small scale really helps the film, especially in an action scene halfway through the film. There are only a handful of characters, which means you're always aware of who is where, what they're doing, and why they're doing it. Whilst it is a small scale, it has large stakes for the characters involved. There are some well-placed squibs throughout too. The film's central theme, as the title implies, is what it means to take someone's life. How can a samurai kill so easily? Killing is great, and Third Window's 3-film pack is worth getting, especially for the variety of films included on it. Perhaps one of the best traditional summer movies released in 2020 was the anime film A Whisker Away, which released on Netflix in June. The film follows a high school girl's unrequited love with her dream boy. By magic, she gains the ability to transform into a cat, and it's with this newfound power that she manages to spend some time with him, albeit without his knowledge that the cat is her. The film is incredibly cute, from its adorably tenacious protagonist's love story to her feline form. It's cute fun, and it's available on Netflix worldwide. Promare, which received a limited theatrical release in 2019, was released on Blu-ray by All Anime in 2020. Trigger, the iconic studio behind Kill la Kill, Little Witch Academia, and 2020's BNA, yet again make a breathtaking world in Promare which feels alive and full of spirit and identity. The film follows a group of firefighters who tackle fires created by the Burnish, mutants who burst into flames. The film's animation is energetic and eye-catching, with well-designed characters likely to be loved by many. Trigger is definitely a studio to follow, and Promare is just as excellently constructed as the rest of their output. I would definitely recommend purchasing Promare. In last year's video, I praised Isao Yukisada's River's Edge, which led to me being quite excited when Amazon Prime released his 2020 film, Theatre: A Love Story. Marketed as a romantic drama, the film follows a straight couple working in the theatre industry. The film starts out pretty strong too, though it loses its way very quickly and becomes an unintentionally hard watch, as male protagonist acts terrible towards his partner repeatedly with no sense of regret or consequence. I'm all for media with troubled protagonists doing bad things. My all-time favourite film is Love Exposure, a film about a panty photographer, but it becomes slightly uncomfortable when the filmmakers don't portray these problems in a bad light. It almost felt to me as if they didn't see anything wrong with what he was doing, showcasing his bad behaviour as if it was normal or to be expected. On the filmmaking side, everything is competently but not excellently put together. I'm willing to admit the possibility that I interpreted the film and the filmmaker's intentions wrong, so I won't describe the film as bad, but it was disappointing and didn't particularly work for me, despite the promising opening. It changed all our lives, it's on all our minds, and on all our social media feeds. And now, it's in our films. Blue Spring director Toshiaki Toida's The Day of Destruction deals with the COVID-19 pandemic and the delay of the Tokyo Olympics. Released worldwide for a single day as part of an online film festival, the film didn't end up catching many people's eyes, but those who did all had something to say about it. It was interesting to see the first genuine film to discuss COVID-19, other than a few zombie cash grabs and the political satires that have come since. The speed at which the film was completed was impressive too, releasing on the 24th of July 2020. Similar filmmaking choices were interesting, such as opening in black and white. At times it seemed a bit obvious in its metaphors, but at 57 minutes long, it never outstayed its welcome. It's a noteworthy film, but not necessarily a must-watch.
Fish Story 聞いたこともねえ。こいつただの運転手。いないものと思っていいから。
あなた、一度でも何かに立ち向かったことがある。
Re-released in August by Third Window Films, Fish Story is an epic tale of interconnecting stories, all centered around a cult punk rock song. The story unfolds excellently, and the aforementioned titular punk rock song, Fish Story, is genuinely a good track. I don't think I'm overhyping it at all when I say that if you like good movies, you'll love Fish Story.
Fish Story?
Fish Story. Fish Story.
Arrow Video came through again with the Gamera Collection, a box set containing all 12 films in the Gamera franchise, as well as their respective American edits and dubs. Gamera is Daiei's attempt at making a kaiju franchise of their own to rival Toho's Godzilla, featuring at its forefront a giant turtle with the ability of flight. What I love about this box set is its size, and I don't just mean its literal height and width, though that is certainly notable. I'm referring to the number of films in the collection. It collects every Gamera film ever made, as opposed to the Godzilla collection released by Criterion the year prior, which only featured the films produced in the Showa era. Also included in this release are two books, one describing the production of each film in the franchise, and the other collecting the 4-issue Dark Horse comic series, as well as the prequel comic, The Last Hope. I was entertained by what I've seen so far, but unfortunately due to its immense size, I haven't been able to finish watching all of the films included, so at some point in the coming weeks or months, I'll release a review video going into detail about this collection.
あの銭湯で働けばなんかのんびり働けそうじゃない？
東大出てんだ。
はい、一応。
採用。
Written, directed and edited by Seiji Tanaka, Melancholic is an impressive low-budget film in the crime-drama genre. The film follows Kazuhiko, who despite graduating from a prestigious university, still struggles getting by in life and winds up working as a cleaner at a bathhouse. Eventually, he ends up accidentally witnessing a crime that sends him in a direction he could have never expected. The story is engaging and makes you root for the protagonist, wishing him the best in life. With zero budget, the film was shot on weekends, whilst the director also maintained a full-time job. Due to the lack of budget, it can occasionally feel a little rough around the edges, but what was achieved with that budget is still very impressive. With this film, Seiji Tanaka proves to be a worthy filmmaker, who I'd love to see go on to be given greater funding in future films.
てめえが今巻き込まれてることがどんだけやべえことが分かってねえんじゃねえかっつってんすよ。
俺は石松リコーダー当番責任者はどこだ。
Graveyards of Honor is an Arrow Video 2-pack featuring two films titled Graveyard of Honor. The 1975 original by Battles Without Honor and Humanity director Kinji Fukasaku, and the 2002 reinterpretation by Takashi Miike, both of whom are widely considered prolific auteurs. The original tells the story of the allegedly real-life criminal Rikyo Ishikawa, while the Miike adaptation takes a different path, keeping some of the same basic plot beats and themes while telling its own unique story. As someone who's been a fan of Miike's work for years now, it was quite interesting to see his version of this story. Whilst it is another violent Yakuza crime film, it's presented in a more gritty, serious and realistic way than some of his other stylised and humorous outputs. Rightfully so, given the harsh subject matter. It's also worth noting that the film makes no attempt to humanise its protagonist, which could be argued either way. Some viewers might find it disgusting to watch a lead character without any positive attributes, but I personally think it's refreshing to see a film that doesn't try to argue that a brutal rapist is deep down a good person, really. One scene in particular caught my attention, a clever concept giving the audience an effectively painful feeling. The 1975 original is also cynical and bold, with impactful use of angles and editing. These two films aren't for everyone, but for fans of either director looking to expand their knowledge of the filmmakers' careers, they're worth checking out. Kwaidan, which translates to Ghost Stories, is a 3-hour anthology film featuring 4 supernatural folktales based on Lafcadio Hearn stories. The film originally released in 1964 and has previously seen a UK release, and this year Eureka finally released it on Blu-ray as part of its Masters of Cinema series. The film is excellently put together, with lavish sets and beautiful colours filling the screen. The second story features a snowstorm which genuinely made me feel cold despite being at home with the heating on. Each story intrigues in its own way. The plots did feel a little predictable to me, though I still thoroughly enjoyed them, and it can be forgiven as the stories they're based upon were written over a century ago, so were likely a lot less predictable when they were published. Unlike most anthology films, every segment is strong and could easily be someone's personal favourite. A booklet is also included in this release, which contains the original stories. The film might be a little slow for the modern mainstream, but is a must-watch for lovers of classic cinema.
一人の男が同じ服装をした同じ体つきの顔まで全く同じ一人の男を絞め殺してしまったのですから。天崎様、俺はお前だ。
Third Window Films released another Shinya Tsukamoto film in November, Gemini. The film is based on a Ranpo Edogawa story and follows a man's downfall at the hands of someone who looks exactly like him. A range of music is used to great impact that accompanies the scenes well. Gemini will please fans of Tsukamoto and could also act as a suitable introduction to his work for those unfamiliar. There's even a short making-of featurette included in the bonus features, directed by Takashi Miike. Mother, which is not to be confused with Mother or Mother, is a film about a mother. Released on Netflix, the film follows a broken family led by a troubled single mum. The mum drinks, gambles, and is sexually free in front of her young son. The young son's actor is surprisingly good at acting, especially considering the subject matter. It's quite dark, which could put off some people, but it seemed to be handled respectfully, showing the reality of the tough situations some young people are unfortunately put in. The film can be tough to watch at times, but it's quite well made.
ここにおられる皆さんは放射能の墓場から健康体で生還。赤いジュースのおかげかもしれません。原住民が飲ませてくれたんですよ。原住民って君、福田さん、あの島は大変な島です。同じ記号が4回出てます。つまるところこの記号は
Mothra is a kaiju film by Ishiro Honda, director of the original 1954 Godzilla. Special effects director Eiji Tsuburaya also returned. The film takes notes from both King Kong and Godzilla, referencing atomic bomb testing and featuring a storyline condemning the consumerist exploitation of foreign natural beings. The story centres around 2 fairy-like twins from the mysterious infant island, which was previously thought to be uninhabited. The twins are kidnapped and used in a stage performance. Secretly, they are calling for their protector Mothra to come and save them. Originally released in 1961, this film marked the first appearance of Mothra on film. Unfortunately in the UK, it took until 2020 for the film to see a proper release, meaning that most people will have seen the character of Mothra either from pop culture or other Godzilla films it would later go on to appear in. It's due to this that you will likely know exactly what to expect before going into this film, though there is still a lot left to marvel at. The anti-exploitation storyline is engaging and the occasional humour is appropriately placed. The special effects are great and often still impressive to this day. It doesn't quite top the original Godzilla, but I'd still consider it one of the gold standard kaiju films, rightfully deserving of its place in the Eureka Masters of Cinema collection.
さあ歌え。いくら歌ってももうモスラは来ないぞ。
ここは薄気味悪くて好きじゃね
この森おかしい。
結界この世とあの世をつなぐゲートだ。
And finally, we have Versus, which was recently re-released by Arrow Video. Arrow bundled 2 discs with this release, one containing the original 2000 cut of Versus, and the other containing Ultimate Versus, the expanded 2004 edit featuring 10 minutes of new footage and fight scenes. Versus is a crazy action film following 2 escaped convicts who meet with another group of criminals whilst being tracked by the officers they escaped from in the Forest of Resurrection, where the dead come back to life. Criminals, vehicular manslaughter, zombies with guns, reincarnation, all under the umbrella of early noughties Asian extreme cinema. If those sound like interesting ingredients, this film might be for you. At times, the story and technical filmmaking quality can feel a bit clunky, but the film shines in its action. Similarly to Takashi Miike's Dead or Alive franchise, I can imagine any of the scenes being uploaded to YouTube with a title along the lines of Craziest Action Scene in Japanese Cinema. You probably won't get much out of it if you're looking for clever filmmaking or a deep story to keep you engaged, but if you want a funny action film to entertain you and the boys after a few beers, it's well worth a look.
筋はいいんだけどなお前ら。
化け物だろうがなんだろうが俺の邪魔する奴は許さねえ。
So there we have it. The Japanese films released in the UK in 2020 were actually very enjoyable. It feels weird to praise a year so widely regarded as painful, but I hope this list proves to you that there were bright moments too. Here's to the hope of more wonderful Japanese films seeing UK release in 2021. Personally, I'm crossing my fingers that we'll get to see Tezuka's Barbara sometime soon.